Hello, and welcome to the first part of our 13-part series on the hero's journey, as it is explored in Joseph Campbell's classic, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. This series will take us step by step through one of the most influential ideas about myth and human psychology ever written, and, more importantly, it will invite you to see how this journey is alive in your own life. In essence, we are uncovering a pattern that speaks directly to the way we live, struggle, and grow today. When we talk about the hero's journey, it is easy to imagine stories of warriors, kings, or adventurers setting out into unknown lands, fighting monsters, and returning home with treasure. That image is familiar, and it has shaped how many think of myth. But the deeper meaning of the hero's journey lies elsewhere. What Joseph Campbell showed was that behind every myth, every adventure, and every tale of daring, there is a psychological reality. Myths speak in symbols, and those symbols mirror the life of the psyche. The hero's journey is not just a story pattern. It is a map of inner transformation, one that plays itself out in the lives of each of us, again and again, whenever we face change, crisis, or the need to grow. To understand this, it helps to look at the journey not as an external adventure, but as a reflection of the mind. Campbell pointed out that the characters and events in myth are not merely entertaining figures, they are aspects of ourselves. The hero is the part of us that longs to grow and move forward, that longs for meaningfulness, and something more than just being a cog in a giant, meaningless, impersonal machine. The threshold guardian is the part that resists change. The mentor is the guiding force that appears when we are ready for it, whether in the form of wisdom from within or help from someone outside. The demons and monsters are not literal beasts, but inner fears, obsessions, and the darker impulses of the psyche. Just to name a few of the ways that the myths mask the realities of the human experience. In other words, the stage on which myth unfolds is not only out there in the world, it is the landscape of consciousness itself. But to experience life as the hero's journey, we need to get over our initial fears and cravings for security and comfort, and answer the call to adventure. And we need to accept that when we leave what is known for the unknown, we are inevitably taking a risk, because life does not come with any guarantees. But how much is what we are leaving behind really worth anyway? Furthermore, it could be argued that, in the very special times that we are living in, staying in the known might be the riskiest thing we can do. And finally, as we soon shall see, just like the hero of countless stories and myths, life may at some point leave us with no real choice but to accept the call. It becomes a matter of either stepping forward or losing our aliveness. We see the evidence of this all around us, in the countless people who are crushed by monotony and adrift in the maze of mental and physical afflictions that mark modern society. On the other hand, to say yes to the call to adventure, when we truly understand what that means, is to enter a world charged with meaning, where symbols that speak directly to the heart and soul appear even in the midst of ordinary life. It is to recognize a story and a greater whole unfolding in what once seemed like a fragmented existence stripped of purpose. To accept the call is to let life be infused with magic once more, to allow yourself to see your own path as something that truly matters. With that being said, the journey begins in the ordinary world. This is the realm of daily life that we just spoke about. The routines and habits that form the backdrop of our existence. For most of us, it is the place of familiarity, of safety, and of established identity. But life has a way of calling us beyond it. Sooner or later, we feel the pull of something that lies outside the boundaries of what we know. It might come as restlessness, as dissatisfaction, or as the feeling that the life we are living does not quite fit anymore. In myth, this is the call to adventure, and psychologically, it is the moment when the unconscious begins to press against the limits of the known self. Something deeper stirs, urging us to grow. Often the first response is resistance. The refusal of the call is the voice inside that clings to comfort. As mentioned, it is that inner voice, no matter what words and methods it actually uses to persuade us, that fears the unknown. It might say, "Better stay where you are. Why should you be capable of doing anything out of the ordinary? This is just pride or hubris. Better keep things safe. Better not take the risk, or you might end up losing what you already have." We all know this feeling. It is the pull of inertia, the instinct to preserve the world we know, even when it no longer nourishes us. Yet the call persists, and when we refuse it, life often intensifies the pressure. Loss, crisis, or disruption may come to force us onto the path we resisted. In that sense, the refusal of the call is part of the pattern. It shows how deeply we resist growth until we have no choice. At some point, though, something shifts. Guidance comes. In myth, this is the mentor, the wise figure who provides courage, knowledge, or a symbolic gift. Psychologically, this is the emergence of inner resources we did not know we had, or the appearance of help from outside that reflects our readiness to move forward. It could be the insight of a teacher, a word from a friend, a dream that lingers, or simply the sudden awareness of strength. This guiding presence prepares us to cross the threshold, that decisive moment when we leave the familiar behind. Crossing the threshold is never small. It means stepping into the unknown, into the special world of the journey. In life, this might be starting a new path, facing an uncomfortable truth, or entering a situation that demands all of us. Once the threshold is crossed, there is no easy return. The world changes, and we are in new territory. Here, the rules are different, and the familiar strategies of the past no longer apply. Psychologically, it is the moment when the old self no longer holds, and the structures that sustained us dissolve. The journey into this special world is marked by trials. We meet allies, we face enemies, and we are tested in ways that reveal both strengths and weaknesses. These encounters are the psyche's way of showing us what must be faced. Allies reflect supportive aspects of ourselves and of life as we discover more of who we are and what opportunities the world grants us. Enemies, on the other hand, often embody the inner forces that resist transformation, such as addictions, negative thought patterns, and negative behaviors. Every trial is an invitation to grow, to let go of what no longer works, and to discover what we truly carry within. Remember, when we say yes to the journey, we say no to the status quo, and we say yes to taking an honest look at ourselves, our lives, and all that this entails. We accept our lives as works in progress. As the journey deepens, we approach what Campbell called the inmost cave, or the belly of the whale, or what is sometimes known as the belly of the beast. This is the place of greatest danger, where the hero must face the deepest fear. Psychologically, it is the descent into the unconscious, where hidden truths, traumas, and repressed aspects of the self dwell. To reach it is to be drawn into the core of our struggle. It is not a comfortable place. It is the abyss, the moment of crisis, the place where the old self seems to die. This symbolic death is the heart of the journey. To grow, something in us must end. Old identities, outdated beliefs, and patterns that no longer serve us must dissolve. This is also what the rites of passage that we find across cultures are meant to signify, whether it is the shaman's lonely quest into the jungle or the confirmations in modern societies. In myth, this is often depicted as combat with a monster, descent into the underworld, or death itself. In life, when it is experienced in its full significance, it appears as despair, as the breaking apart of who we thought we were. Yet this death is not final. It is the gateway to rebirth. The hero survives, transformed, carrying something new. The boon or treasure discovered here is the wisdom, strength, or insight that only comes from having gone through the ordeal. Emerging from the ordeal, the hero is not the same as before. The gift, whether knowledge, healing, or inner power, is what gives meaning to the struggle. But the journey is not over. The hero must return. In story, this often involves a chase or a final confrontation, as if the old world does not want to let go. Psychologically, it is the challenge of integrating the new self into the old context. It is not enough to have an insight in isolation. It must be brought back, lived, and shared. The return is about embodying the transformation, making it real in the ordinary world. The final stage is the return with the elixir. The hero comes back to daily life, but with something gained. In myth, it might be a magical object, healing water, or hard-won knowledge. In life, it is the strength, the wisdom, the clarity that now enriches both the hero and those around them. This is essential because the journey is not only about the self. It is about what the self brings back to life as a whole. The boon must be shared, or the journey remains incomplete. When we see the hero's journey in this way, as a psychological map, its relevance becomes clear. Every time we face change, we are called to adventure. Every time we resist, we are refusing the call. Every time we take a risk and step into the unknown, we cross a threshold. Every time we meet challenges that shake us, we are in the midst of trials. Every time we face despair or loss, we are in the belly of the whale. And every time we emerge with new strength or wisdom, we have found the boon. This pattern repeats in cycles. It is not a single event, but a rhythm of life. Again and again, we are called beyond what we know. Again and again, we resist. Again and again, life pushes us into the unknown. And again, we return, changed, carrying something new. This is why the hero's journey resonates across cultures. It is not someone else's story. It is ours. Understanding this gives us perspective. When we are in the midst of struggle, it can feel meaningless, chaotic, or punishing. When we cannot make sense of life, our problems seem overwhelming, and we see no way out, it can feel frightening, and the fear might even threaten to push us into apathy. But when we recognize even our darkest moments as parts of the pattern, the struggle becomes meaningful. If we don't allow ourselves to be completely swallowed by the darkness, we see that we are in a necessary part of the cycle, and that beyond it lies renewal. This does not remove the difficulty, but it frames it. It shows that despair is not the end, but a stage. And knowing that changes everything. The psychology of the hero's journey also reveals something about freedom. Each stage of the journey is an invitation to choose. At the call to adventure, we choose between growth and safety. At the threshold, we choose between clinging to the old and stepping into the new. At the ordeal, we choose between letting fear consume us or facing it and allowing transformation. The treasure is not handed to us. It is found because we choose to continue. This shows that the hero's journey is not only about fate. It is about our willingness to take part in our own transformation. And yet, the pattern is bigger than choice alone. Life will call us, even when we resist. The journey is archetypal, meaning that it arises from the structure of the psyche itself. We cannot avoid it forever. To live is to move through cycles of loss of life and rebirth, deprivation and renewal. The question is not whether we will face these cycles, but how we will meet them. With fear and resistance, or with awareness that this is the path of growth. What makes the hero's journey powerful is that it affirms both the struggle and the reward. It reveals that fear, confusion, and despair are not signs of failure, but essential passages along the path. To be a hero in this sense is not about wearing a mask of invulnerability. That is neither genuine strength nor genuine heroism. The journey teaches that real strength, wisdom, and renewal arise only when we face our pain and burdens with honesty and clarity. When we begin to see our lives through this lens, we learn to trust the process. We stop demanding that life remains stable and instead start to recognize the deeper rhythm moving beneath it. In this way, myth becomes more than an old story. It becomes a guide to the mind. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles, that countless others have walked this path before, and that the symbols they left are not just entertainment, but psychological maps. The hero with 1,000 faces is every one of us. Each time we choose to step out of that which is safe and familiar, face the unknown, and return with something gained, we embody that pattern. So the next time you feel restless, dissatisfied, or drawn into crisis, consider that you may be hearing the call to adventure. When you resist, recognize that you are refusing the call. When you step into the unknown, see that you are crossing a threshold. When you feel overwhelmed or lost, remember that you may be in the belly of the whale. And when you emerge stronger, wiser, or more whole, know that you have returned with the boon. In this way, you can begin to notice not only the shape of a single grand adventure, but also the many smaller journeys that echo the same pattern throughout your life. Each carries its own trials, ordeals, and gifts, and each contributes to the unfolding of your greater story. When you live with this awareness, your life itself takes on the quality of myth. You are no longer moving through disconnected events, but participating in a timeless pattern. What happens to you is not only personal, it resonates with the great story of the psyche that has been told in countless forms since the dawn of humanity. To see your life in this way is to recognize that you are part of something vast, and that your own steps matter within that ongoing tale. In summary, the hero's journey is not just a story structure or a collection of old myths. It is a reflection of the inner life that every one of us carries. Each stage, the call, the refusal, the crossing, the trials, the ordeal, and the return, mirrors the movements of our own psyche as we grow, resist, struggle, and transform. What Campbell revealed is that myth is not an escape from reality, but a deeper way of seeing it. When you recognize the rhythm of this pattern in your own life, even your hardest moments become part of something larger. Struggle is no longer meaningless, but a passage. Fear is not failure, but a doorway. Renewal is always possible because the journey itself insists upon it. And when you return from each cycle with whatever strength or wisdom you have found, you do not only heal yourself, you contribute to life as a whole. Something that is important to realize when you read a work like The Hero with 1,000 Faces is that it cannot be approached only with the intellect. If you remain at the level of analysis, the book will inform you, but it will not transform you. Its real power comes when you allow it to reach your heart, when the symbols and images awaken something deeper inside. The hero archetype is not a concept to be admired from a distance. It is a living force within you, waiting to be stirred. To awaken that force, you must see your own struggles reflected in the myths. The restless longing for safety, the temptation to cling to comfort, the laziness of spirit that wants life to be predictable. These are not just side effects of modern culture. They are the very dragons of the psyche, monsters that, left unchallenged, will devour what is most alive in you. The refusal to grow is not harmless, it is destructive. And the myths remind us that unless we face these forces with courage, they will quietly dominate our lives. That is why Campbell insisted that myth is not entertainment. It is instruction, but not the kind of instruction you follow like a manual. It is instruction that works by resonance, by stirring your own courage, by calling out to the part of you that knows you are capable of more. When you let the story touch you, you find that the monsters you face are not out there in some other world. They are here, inside. And when you see them clearly, you also see that the treasure they guard is nothing less than your own wholeness, your sense of meaningfulness and fulfillment. You've now reached the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe, and check out the description and comment section to see other things that we do. Thank you for your time.